Well, hello there again. A few days ago I picked up this nice vintage old TV. And for those interested to know exactly what TV it is, well, I've got all the schematic and details here, and this is the Saba T or S116V. Now, there are two versions of this TV. One is the TV just like we see it here, and the other version is the TV like this, built into some sort of music box. But yeah, I've just got this version, and of course, in the state it currently is, there is no way I'm going to power this thing up. You don't know why? Well, I have already done a few checkups in this thing just to figure out what state it is, and all the stuff I removed is in this bag here. And well, yeah, this interesting looking component here, that used to be a capacitor. Well, now it doesn't really resemble a capacitor anymore. Well, does it? No. So, this is a 0.22 microfarad 200 volt capacitor. So that's something you can easily replace. And, well, the issue here is these are tar-coated paper wax capacitors. And yeah, these things will not work anymore. No matter if the device you have has been used a lot or not, these things just tend to dry out and they will fail just like this. And there's a lot more of these capacitors inside this thing. We're going to have a look inside them in a little bit. And that is also the reason why there is no way I'm going to power this thing up in the state it currently is in, because it's just going to release the smoke everywhere and in the worst case blow up all the power rails of the vacuum tubes, which would be a real pain and annoyance to happen, since those tubes are kind of expensive. I have to check all of the tubes if they are still actually functional. I don't have a tube tester though, so I have to only check if all the tubes only have continuity on the heater element and nowhere else. So yeah, let's turn this thing around and see what's inside. Now, to no one's surprise, I have to point out that handling a TV like this is an absolute pain because it's heavy as fuck. The reason for that is, well, we have this entire wooden enclosure, which by itself already weighs over 5 kilograms, and then we have the rest of the assembly, which is a huge vacuum tube, a metal housing and everything, holding the thing together, and this thing weighs approximately 40 kilograms, so yeah, that is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, as you can see, we have all kinds of vacuum tubes in here and lots of other cool vintage stuff. Let's have a closer look. Now on this side of the board, everything seems pretty much fine. We do have a few wax paper capacitors down there, which, as you can see, they look very, very crusty and not that nice, as well as a few over here. Those will be needed to replace as well, since those things are not going to work and function in the way they should. A lot of people, for whatever reason, will get some vintage old capacitors like this and run those on audio circuitry with vacuum tubes, and that really is a bad idea because these things tend to have a lot of leakage and you're going to drive the tubes way too hard, and that is not good. Those tubes are just going to, well, essentially fail pretty soon. I don't have to check anything under here really, other than make sure that the vacuum tubes that are in here are fine, because that's where all the high voltage stuff is happening. As you can see here, the flyback and everything is in there. But let's have a look into this thing a little bit deeper. And for that we have to loosen the screws up here. Alright, getting a lot more interesting now. We have a lot of point-to-point soldering. For whatever reason this thing is not hooked up. I actually added the rubber cap on it because that was initially not there. And I don't want to have some high voltage line, which is like 15 kilovolts, flapping around in here somewhere. Or, well, coming loose, since, and yeah. I just don't want to have some high voltage lines not really nicely isolated, and if they could come loose, it could be very, very dangerous. But yeah, we don't think there are any capacitors down on these two, but there are a lot more capacitors all the way down there in the front, since that's where all the switches are, as you can see down there. That big metal enclosure underneath the tube. And you can see another tar capacitor right here, which definitely needs to be replaced, because that's actually connecting the chases to ground and make sure that the outside of this tube isn't, well, live, and essentially making the whole TV live. There are a lot more capacitors down in here. We have some electrolytic ones as well, but those are the typical ones just wrapped in foil. And those don't look that great anymore, so I'll essentially have to test those with a capacitor leakage tester. And yeah. And of course, yeah, for the tar capacitors in here, I don't even have to test them, just by the way they look. All of them are cracked. There is no way that these capacitors are actually going to be in any way more functional. These electrolytics could still be fine. I will have to test those as well, just to well make sure that nothing in here is going to blow up when I power up for the first time in who knows how long. I will also have to realign the the deflection coils in here. Flyback is this side here. Since this thing was loose and I just tightened up in the way it kind of locked in some picture I found online. Which, well, is a little bit challenging since you're dealing with a lot of high voltage stuff in here, and there are gonna be a few 100 volts on these rails in here as well. But yeah, so far so good. Nothing in here looks too terrible. That capacitor blown up was connected to these two pins right here. And yeah, essentially you just have to find the exact replacement of the same values. Voltage can be higher though, if you can't find the exact same voltage. And yeah, remove the old ones, put in the new ones, and everything should be fine to go. Yeah. Some of the potentiometers that are in here, like this one, there were some tiny issues with these that they essentially seized up, and the reason for that is, well, these things had grease in them, and that grease, after like 60 years now, essentially just hardened up and just got sticky, so you just have to essentially disassemble the potentiometer, clean everything up with some alcohol solution like isopropanol, and yeah, just apply some new grease. I just used some WD-40, which may not be the best, but as you can see, that thing turns easily now again, which is perfect. So yeah, this is just essentially part one, an overview of the TV and figuring out in which state it is in, and yeah, essentially figuring out what is necessary to do to get this thing up and running again.